Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast. We talk all things comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. Today, we are talking The Empire Strikes Back for its 40th anniversary as we celebrate May the 4th. I'm Blade O'Neill.
Ken Brown.
I'm Lance O'Neill.
And today we have a special guest joining us, Jay from Sidekicks, Toys and Collectibles. Jay, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So Jay, like I just said, runs Sidekicks, Toys and Collectibles. It's a little Facebook auction. But Jason, I'll let you explain it so people don't have to hear me talking.
All right. We do a live show every Friday, 8 p.m. Central on Facebook. And it's basically we sell toys, collectibles, mostly Funko-related items. But we do Star Wars, Marvel here and there as well. So...
yeah, lots of good stuff. It's always a good time. You'll usually see me in there too. So pop in and say hi. It's a good time. And look out for a link to that Facebook page in the description of this podcast. But before we delve into our special May the 4th Star Wars episode, I just want to thank you all who make us a part of your weekly routines and listen and leave those reviews and comments on Facebook, iTunes, Google Play, all that fun stuff. We appreciate your support. But yeah, without further ado, Empire Strikes Back. This is the 40th anniversary, which is pretty crazy, if you think about it. And the fandom's still going strong, It came out on May 21st, 1980, which was 40 years ago. Lots of good stuff coming out. Lots of pops, and I think Jason, like you had a few of those, the 40th anniversary pops, right?
We did. We had a few on the show last Friday.
Mm-hmm. They're really cool. I know there's Leia in her Bespin outfit, right?
Yes.
There's Luke with a little Yoda on his back, which is, it sets it over the edge, right? Ken, have you guys seen these?
I've not seen these yet.
Okay, I'm gonna pop a link in our little. We're recording this on Skype, so you guys can check those out there. So super cool set. There's a Darth Vader in an egg, or I don't know, is it not the egg? But you guys know what I mean. What is it called?
Inside his chambers,
yeah, the little chamber thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That moment from, and this is apparent, I think, throughout all of Empire Strikes Back, is like we really start getting into character development. You get Vader teased without his helmet, and Luke, not Luke, Han and Leia's, relationship, especially a lot of the dialogue in the beginning while they're on Hoth, it's just wonderfully written.
Great. Yeah, it's really good. I was watching it last night, and I was watching it to go to sleep, and I was like, "Oh, they did such a good job with that. It's like the little things, the little conversations of like, just like almost like a normal relationship kind of a thing. It was very well done."
Yeah, everybody got their screen time perfectly balanced in that movie. Obviously, the introduction of Yoda too was probably one of the most important moments in Star Wars history too in that movie, because remember when I first saw Yoda, I didn't know about him being this great Jedi as a kid. And you see him as like this little bit of like bumbling type of no interest in the Force whatsoever, and then you get to really see the reveal as it goes about who this guy really is and what he can do. It's like perception is not everything is the main message through Yoda, which was really, really, really cool.
Absolutely.
I remember.
Yep.
And this was, I think, one of the biggest differences that you can immediately see between watching 4 and then going right into 5. This was directed by Irvin Kershner. I believe I'm saying that correctly.
You are.
Not saying that George Lucas is bad or anything, but like, he did a much better job pulling these performances, I think, out of the actors. And I think that's part of the reason why so many people, like, this is their favorite Star Wars movie. It's not my favorite Star Wars movie, but I feel like that's the general consensus among many. What about you guys? Is this your favorite Star Wars movie?
It's in the top 3, because I said too, I'm affectionate towards Return of the Jedi, because that's the first one I saw as a kid in the theater. And you always have that when you see Star Wars on the big screen for the first time, it's just nothing better. I mean, as I said too, like Lucasfilm, oh my gosh, the sound system.
Skywalker sound. THX. The THX.
Yeah, THX was invented by Star Wars, and like you can only get that experience in theaters. So when I first saw Return of the Jedi as a kid in the theater, like when it first debuted, it was, the Scout Walkers sounded like they were that much more intimidating in the forest on Endor, and it was just something your at-home TVs couldn't bring at that time. I mean, there was no surround sound back in like 1983.
Yeah.
And so when you went to the theater, that's what the experience was. I mean, the theater experiences were so much better back in the 80s and 90s than they are now, because you can have your own home theaters at home and you get that same impact that you can't have now that you never had back in those days. So Return of the Jedi is kind of that full immersion of Star Wars for the first time for me.
I definitely see what you're saying there. Jay, is it your favorite Star Wars movie or no?
It's in my top two. My favorite actually is also Return of the Jedi.
All right. Yes, me too.
Nice,
this is
Jason.
awesome.
Yeah, there's so much going on in that movie in Return of the Jedi. So much relatable, especially with the end of the movie between Vader and Luke. It's just hands down my favorite.
Yeah,
the green and red lightsaber scenes were just like magical. That's the first time we ever saw a green lightsaber in that movie, and it was just father versus son and redemption. It was everything in it. The Ewoks were there for the kids. I mean, too bad the Gungans couldn't recreate that Phantom Menace. But, the Ewoks were like legitly cool to multi-generational people.
Interesting. Lance?
Oh, I'm good. I mean, I know we've gone over this.
But I just want to hear you say it.
You want to hear me say it?
Yeah. What's your favorite Star Wars movie? It's okay.
Episode 9.
This is a judgment-free zone.
No, I'm just kidding.
You are?
What?
It's not episode 9?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I can't. It's more of, there's too much nostalgia and there's too much of a, I don't know. It's the original series. It's like blasphemy if you were to put it above it. Given I do love the new Star Wars movie, but it has to be. And it's neck and neck. 5 and 6 to me are like.
So what are you picking? 5 or are you picking 5 or 6?
5.
Okay. So we at least got one in there. And this is Jason, I don't know if I've told you specifically this. But I know I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I think part of my nostalgia for Return of the Jedi, which has created a bias for me personally, was after I watched episode 4, Blockbuster did not have Empire Strikes Back. So we got Return of the Jedi next. And it skipped all this stuff. And that's how I found out Darth Vader was Luke's father. That's how I knew, who Yoda was. So I actually never technically got that reveal in that same manner, I think, as most fans did. Also, to make it a little worse, I don't think I saw Empire Strikes Back until the special edition VHSs came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, didn't get the original cut.
Yeah, so it was enhanced.
Have you seen the original cut though?
I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, unless it was on TV, I don't think so. Like in the 90s. But in those old VHSs, when the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition came out, before the movie started, there was like those making of kind of like special features. Yes. So like I would watch that every time. So I definitely understand the differences, and I've seen them compared, within the context of the VHS showing, the differences of everything. So like I'm aware of how the Wampa, looked a little different, or at least the scene is a little different, because I think they reshot the shots, right? Like you actually see more of them, I think.
Yeah, they added in extra shots.
Yeah.
And of course,
And the Jabba scene.
the Jabba scene was added in A New Hope.
Oh, okay.
In the beginning of a New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, people hate on it. I do like it, with the small problem that Jabba wouldn't put up with Han stepping on his tail.
Yeah.
I never somebody pointed that out to me, and I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Was that you, Jason? I don't remember, but somebody pointed that out to me, and I was like, that is correct.
It was really interesting. Did you ever see that the Marvel Comics had the original script of the humanoid-looking Jabba stopping Solo on the way to the Millennium Falcon or something like that?
Oh, no.
Because the original Marvel Star Wars comics had a scene that was in the comics of Jabba trying to collect money from Han. And Han's like, I don't have my money for you. It's like that, okay, if you don't have it, there's going to be consequences. But it was a humanoid-looking Jabba that looked nothing like the Jabba the Hutt they used in Return of the Jedi. And that's kind of, I guess, an homage maybe as to why they put that scene into New Hope in the extra scene. I guess what's the deluxe edition? Special edition. Sorry, where it was kind of a callback to the original cut of Star Wars that they cut that out.
Yeah, they shot it with a human.
Script.
Yeah, they shot it with a human.
Okay.
So like when they added that scene back in, they put a digital Jabba over this person.
Okay, that makes sense then, because in the comic it was like nothing like how Jabba looked in the movie.
Yeah, and it was exactly that's probably what they took it from, is because they shot it as this guy with like, I don't know, like brown clothes, if I remember correctly, and there was like some fur to the clothes as well. But he was I want to say he was a famous Irish actor, right?
Yeah, he was.
Really?
It almost looked like almost like a Chewbacca type fur that wrapped around him in a way. But yeah, he's I forget his name for the life of me. But
Declan Mulholland, if I'm saying that correctly.
So they went from Craven to a slug.
Yeah, I love Jabba. He's I consider him like a guilty pleasure character. I don't know if it was the great way they, pre special edition kind of, there were references to this Jabba character, and it seemed like a really big deal. And then you finally have this payoff, at the end. He's a gangster. He's living it up. He doesn't care. He's dangerous.
I think maybe you like him because of the Leia costume.
I don't think that's it. I think he's cool. He's a gangster. He's a space gangster. Yeah.
Fired you a picture of the page from the Star Wars comic for you guys.
Oh, you saw. Here we go. Let me see what.
If you can pull that up on your screen or not.
I am clicking on it. Oh, come on. The Google would not load. Ah, interesting. So he's
got like old rogue colors, the orange and the green.
Yeah, but he was still he's like more of a creature, like a humanoid creature, though. Interesting.
Yeah,
interesting. So I guess did this comic come out before Return of the Jedi? Then is that what this?
It came out before Star Wars movie, because it was kind of like a tease for the release of the movie. Marvel Comics Star Wars came out in 1977, but didn't the movie come out like May of 77, or when was it? December of 77. When did Star Wars originally come out?
May 25th, 1977.
Okay. And so this shows it was in Star Wars number 5 of the Marvel story. No, that can't be right, because was it only 3 issues, the original Star Wars story?
Well, I mean, regardless, we did not have Jabba's look until Return of the Jedi came out.
Yeah.
In 1982, right?
Yeah, 83.
83. Was it 83?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was 3 years after?
Yeah, each
okay, that makes sense. It's 3. So 77, 80, and then 83. Got it.
And so this prototype was 6 years before Return of the Jedi, so they totally redesigned him for some reason.
Interesting. They obviously weren't landing on anything with him for a little bit. He became
Clearly.
a slug later. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So Empire Strikes Back introduces probably one of the most popular Star Wars. Well, actually, no, it does not introduce it because Boba Fett first appeared actually in the holiday special.
Yes.
So
There's this holiday
correct.
special.
Yeah, that's right. But I think people love Boba Fett because of Empire Strikes Back and not the holiday special.
Yeah.
What is it about Boba Fett that people love so much?
Yeah, dude, that costume design looks freaking BA. I mean, as I said too, like next to Vader, I remember Boba Fett is the coolest looking character inside that original Star Wars trilogy. And just, he's the one that actually captured Han Solo. Actually, Vader did, but, Vader trusted Boba Fett more than probably any, he got the job done. That's the way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody could catch the rebels, but, Boba Fett was the one that worked with Vader to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think between that and working with Jabba too,
Yeah.
He's always working with the best and the baddest, so he must be the baddest, I think that you just put that correlation together. And obviously, his armor is just so sick. It's the helmet, really.
Yeah.
It's something about that helmet is just awesome. It's such a simple but unique design that, I don't know, it's just different. It hits different.
Yes. The funny thing, too, is this ship is kind of boring looking. Is that weird? Does everybody like the Slave One, or Slave One is cool looking?
I like the Slave One.
Yeah, the Slave One, I said too. It's like that. Everyone else has got like sleek looking ships, and he's got this round beetle looking thing.
Jason, do you like the Slave One?
I do like the Slave One. I got actually one hanging from the ceiling right here.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why, because I'm so used to like the X-Wings and the TIE Fighters, and I thought like Boba Fett would have a more sleek, awesome looking ship. And it's cool looking, it's just it seems too bulky for Boba Fett.
I kind of agree too. And maybe that's part of the love for Boba Fett. It's just because he is so different. Whether it's his costume, whether it's what what his ship looks like. It's just he's totally different than what you would see in a Star Wars movie. So maybe that could be where some of that love is coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would say, like I think the one thing that I wish kind of changed from the original trilogy is just like how lame it was for him to like kind of die. Like, well, I know there's like speculation if he's, did he actually die? But like a blind Han accidentally hits him with a stick and he flies into the pit. Like, really? Come on.
I mean, that is something that has been very thematic, I think, is there's several characters that have kind of unceremonious deaths. And I think Boba Fett is one of them, Yeah,
I think him and Darth Maul were in that same breath. Isn't it kind of weird? Like Darth Maul got the Boba Fett treatment. You kind of feel
and so did Phasma.
Yeah, it's true. Captain Phasma too, as well.
Mm-hmm.
People that were so expected to be like, wow, dude, they could do so much with these characters, and they kind of more or less axed them too quickly. Is the best way to put it.
On that flip side of that coin, there's been so many. Between the animated series, is that the plural for animated series? Between all the animated series, I don't know, and the comic books, like they've introduced more lore for characters like Maul and Boba Fett and Phasma, which has been really neat. Especially Maul, and everything in Clone Wars and Rebels. And because today's May the 4th, I don't want to go off topic too much, and I'm not gonna say anything. But today, the series finale of Clone Wars is coming out, and oh my goodness! And that's all I'm saying. We're recording this the day before, so I don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, that's one of the things we get today on this Star Wars holiday. But I am caught up, and that's all I'm saying. That's all. Jason, you're the only other one watching it, right?
I'm watching it. I don't know who else is watching it, but like everyone in the house, the whole what is it, Shattered? We've all watched that a couple times. The name of the episode Shattered. And I have not seen the last one. I am still looking forward to it. Really excited. I loved Shattered. I thought they did just a great job just tying in everything. So
yes, 100%. And Lance, Ken, like just watch the last 3 episodes. Like, don't even bother with the rest of Clone Wars. Like, I just watched the last 3 episodes. Like, it is worth it. It is.
They're all on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
So on Disney Plus today, they get the series finale of Clone Wars, and they're adding Star Wars Episode 9 to Disney Plus as well, so you can watch the entire Skywalker saga now. And there's also, what is it? A documentary about the making of The Mandalorian, I think is the other big thing, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, those are the big things. But anyway, back to Star Wars Episode 5 here. I have another little note. Even though they didn't really change the Emperor. Yeah, they didn't change the Emperor right until they redid Star Wars again. So I did see how the Emperor looked. But there's another character who they didn't quite finish deciding how that character was going to look, and they still had him in there. That was the Emperor. And and I was I don't know if it was the making of thing in the beginning or if it was some commentary, but from what I understand, the Emperor, the face was a woman. I don't know what her role was on the production team, and the top part of the face was a chimpanzee.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah, that's why he looks so weird when you look in the unaltered version of that scene. There's a chimpanzee like top head of the face there. Of course, they redid it later and they put Ian McDiarmid back in there. Although he kind of has like an episode 3 look, which is a little weird because it seems to be pretty quick that he goes from that to much more decrepit looking, I think. And
it's the dark side, what the power of the dark side did to him.
Well, I mean, I guess, he said he died before, so I guess it could also technically be a different body too, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. But yeah, that was a little fun fact. I was curious if you guys knew about that. The Emperor up until that point was just kind of this looming character. The Emperor, Jay, you've been to Star Wars Celebration quite a few times, and I remember you mentioning you met Carrie Fisher. Is that something you are okay sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually one of those things. I went with my oldest, and we got to stand in line. And Carrie Fisher was almost 2 hours late, but it was well worth it. Once we got up to her table to get a couple autographs, she was kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, she was very cool, very approachable. She had, I forget what her name of her dog was, it was Gary. And she had him there, and my daughter actually got Carrie's autograph first, and then Carrie, I was next. Carrie came up to me, and she threw like this handful of makeup on my forehead. And I'm like, what the heck? But I'm like, you know what? It's cool. I'm going to wear like a badge of honor. So like all day, people are asking me or, stare at me. I'm like, oh, that was from Carrie.
It was glittery, right?
Yeah, it was really glittery. But
Nice. Awesome.
it was really cool. It was really cool. I mean, it's definitely something I will never forget.
Absolutely. That's so neat. I'm so jealous, and I really wish I had that opportunity. But yeah, I mean, all the fan stories I've seen, about meeting her, like they're all so unique, especially with her and her dog Gary and the glitter stuff. Like it's like she's unique, and definitely taken too soon. Have you guys met any Star Wars actors?
Gosh, just Jeremy Bullock at.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fett, and he's I said too is like nothing like what you see inside the armor. Super nice guy and super talkative and really appreciates the fans, which was nothing super. I hate saying it, nothing super memorable about a special experience out of it. But it was really cool just getting a chance to see him enjoy the fans as much as we enjoy him. I mean, he was very humble, not like standoffish at all, and just very, very welcoming to every fan that wanted to come up and say hi to him.
Yep. No, I completely agree. I did not get an autograph from him when he came to Phoenix Comic Con, but I did shoot a quick, I'll call it an interview because I mean that was the intent, but he quickly took it over, right? And I was with some friends. They had their kid with them.
Yes.
And he was, he must have been, I don't even know how old at the time, 6, 7, 8. And he showed Jeremy Bullock that he could play the Star Wars theme on his, it's not a flute. Is it a recorder that kids usually learn when they're,
I think it was
young?
Recorded.
It's a recorder.
I remember that.
So he grabbed Jimmy and introduced him as this musical genius, and he played it for us. Cool. And he was, he was really, really sincere. Jeremy Bullock was a great guy. Totally. I totally forgot about that until you brought him up.
Yes, that's the. Unfortunately, I wasn't there with you guys while we were doing that video, but I went up and said hi to him beforehand. Mm-hmm. Like, I wish I was with you guys doing that video because that's one of the most epic Timmy moments of all time. It cracks me up. I still see that video pop around the internet, and it's just he was so excited to see Jeremy play that with them, or lead him into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it had to have been an even cooler moment for him, for sure. Being so young. Yeah, you guys can probably find that on YouTube when this or a version of Nightcap Chat was called Comic Fan Network. So that's where that little video exists. I won't put the link, but if you're interested in seeing it, that's where it lives. So then, on the topic of Boba Fett, I want to know your guys' opinions on the redubbing of Boba Fett's voice to be, oh my gosh, his name is just left. The guy who plays Jango Fett. My goodness, his name is Tamara Morrison. What do you guys think about Tamara Morrison being the voice of Boba Fett?
I don't think there's a problem with it, right? I guess it makes sense. That's I think it comes with the territory, right? If you had to make a movie that came out 20, 30 years later, then, I mean, you just kind of got to do what you got to do. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, especially Star Wars, I feel like they redo things all the time, and I don't think it's not that big of a deal for them, It's not different territory.
Yeah, that's the two. It's like Star Wars kind of retrofitted everything as the story went. I mean, Hayden Christensen totally took over for that Return of the Jedi ghost scene for Anakin at the end of Return of the Jedi, which totally pushed out the other actor that was supposed to be in the Anakin Skywalker role, and you never saw that guy again. He was kind of just eliminated from, Star Wars lore by that same type of thing.
Which really is weird that it was Hayden Christensen, in my opinion. Because, shouldn't Luke be like, well, who the hell is that? I mean, right? Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. That was one thing that actually bothered me about the, the touch-ups that they did on Return of Jedi. As soon as I saw that Hayden Christensen, even though I think I enjoy watching Hayden Christensen, I think he, did a great job as Anakin, I did not like seeing him at the very end. It just made no sense. I don't know.
Well, especially when the other two are there looking as they died.
Right.
So what do you think about the Boba Fett thing, Jay?
You know what? At first it kind of bothered me because I think a lot of these actors kind of got the raw end of the deal, even though, I mean, they got paid for doing their job. But I didn't, especially with Boba Fett, I didn't really see a huge difference of why you need to actually just switch him over, to the actor that played Jango Fett. I didn't really see the reason behind that, but, I kind of agree, here with everybody else is you kind of Star Wars has been doing that, especially when, with what George Lucas has done with, 4, 5, and 6. He kind of try to connect as much as he could to his prequels. So I've kind of just, learned to go with it. But the whole Hayden Christensen at the end of Return of the Jedi still bothers me.
Yeah.
It's also kind of weird because why would you change it to Hayden Christensen when you did show what Darth Vader looked like? He took his helmet off. You could have just made it look like that and just kept it like that. It's just, I don't know. That is kind of just a weird choice. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially not changing Yoda and Obi-Wan at that point. Yeah, I mean, we can debate it all day. Unless you want to go to the debate of it's like the last time they looked when they were good, when they were like a Jedi, and that was like right before Anakin completely switched to the dark side. I don't know if that would have to do with anything, but that's just one probably theory you could probably come up with. I think people do argue that, and then I guess the counterpoint is, didn't he turn back to the light at the end?
True.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, because
right?
Did he die a Jedi or did he die a Sith? I guess he said he died a Jedi rather than a Sith at the end there, correct?
I mean, I think more so the point is he died Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Darth Vader died when
10 minutes
grabbed. Before that. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Darth Vader died when he grabbed the Emperor.
When he threw Palpatine over the edge.
Yes. Yeah. Right. That's where Darth Vader died. Anakin died, at the end. The whole concept of having actors play something like, I guess it's just multiple actors playing one role, at the same time. I think something as Star Wars has done a fair amount and has done really well.
Like Darth Vader?
Like Darth Vader. Darth Vader's a perfect example. Have you guys ever listened to the non-dubbed takes?
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
He's got like a high little British voice, like, "You must take her away now. Go." Like, could you imagine Darth Vader sounding like that?
It definitely would have. I feel like it definitely would have been a negative impact on Star Wars.
Yeah, James Earl Jones is like the iconic voice we'll always remember as Darth Vader.
Absolutely.
He lent as much to that character as the look itself. That voice was perfectly matched up with the look of Darth Vader.
Yeah, that Darth Vader not dubbed was almost like Spaceballs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rick Moranis underneath there type of thing.
Absolutely. That's hysterical. But I think it's such an interesting concept, and I feel like filmmakers don't use this enough. I mean, like we've had it a few times, especially with like motion capture stuff, but like I almost feel like that doesn't count. Because you had this guy who had, he was a big guy, he had a wide chest, he was tall, but he didn't have the voice. So you got James Earl Jones in there, and James Earl Jones, wouldn't have fit in that suit, necessarily the same way. I think I've been able to sword fight the same way as well.
I think the other thing is it's hard to find the right, probably especially back then, it's probably a little less of a picking of talent. But it's hard to find someone who has the right look or the right skills and abilities with the acting skills that you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But I mean, now you have like rare people like, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Whenever we're doing a podcast, like names escape me. It's insane.
Yep. Podcast syndrome.
Yeah. Right. But you have, what's his name doing Smeagol, and you have him doing
Snoke,
and you have him doing all these different characters. Andy Serkis. Yeah. And it's just like he has that ability to like he can move around and like do all these crazy things, but he's still a great actor.
He is a good actor. He's very good. Yeah, that's a great point. I think there's more room for this kind of concept. I mean, look at Darth Maul. You know, yep. Ray Park's a great stuntman. You know, I've met Ray Park. He's a great guy, but I mean, like they dubbed him for whatever reason, whether it was his acting abilities, you know, or whatever. But one of the coolest things they did with live action Maul is because it's there's a different voice actor in episode 1, but when he made his cameo in Solo, spoiler alert, I guess, but I mean, if you haven't seen it, that's your fault. That voice actor for Darth Maul was the voice actor from Clone Wars and Rebels.
Oh, really? That's cool.
So how neat is it to have that kind of cohesiveness between the movies and the canon animated shows, you know? I mean, like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's something that's really amazing, how Star Wars has been able to keep attention to detail for over 40 years and try to fit it together as if you can watch it at any point and you're not like picking it apart from generation to generation.
Yeah.
I mean, 1977 filmmaking is so much different than it is today. Yet they were so far ahead of its curve. It's crazy to see movies that get timeless like that. Like not even James Bond films, as awesome as they are, you can tell the different eras by watching James Bond films. And Star Wars, since it's an all fictional universe, it seems it stays timeless through anything I've ever seen, better than anything I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, you look at James Bond, you know, if you watch Casino Royale, let's say, and Skyfall, which kind of, you know, leads up to Sean Connery and his Aston Martin and Dr. No, you know, and all that. It's not the same. You know, they're so different. Like you're right. It doesn't work. You take Star Wars, and even if you watch 1 through 9 in order, it still works so well. And I don't know if you guys heard me say this before, but you know, 1, 2, and 3, even with the CGI, and like you look at certain elements like Padme's ship, right? It's like chrome, shiny, right? It's unbelievable. You know, even you know, maybe the clone troopers are an example, but like the whole world, you know, is not downtrodden. Like it's strong, you know, and there's all this CGI, but then you go right into 4, 5, and 6. You have a time jump, and now they were using practical effects and stuff, but things are grungy. There aren't shiny chrome things in 4, 5, and 6, you know, like you see in 1, 2, and 3. Things aren't new, and you kind of take that as this is what the Empire has done to the universe.
Absolutely. That's what I was just going to touch on. It's like that the galaxy had an impact on these rebels, and they can't keep up with the power of the Empire, and they're trying to fight against it, but they just don't have the same resources that you saw in those earlier movies that the Empire was able to maintain. Like the TIE fighters, even inside those movies, look like higher quality products that were being used to fight against like the X-Wings and the Y-Wings. It was almost like they were going to recycle ship ports and like, okay, we need to get some kind of weaponry that's kind of antiquated to be able to fight against what's going on in the galaxy right now.
That's one of the best parts about 7, 8, and 9 was all of the practical effects that they did implement. It really felt like it naturally came out, you know, X amount of time past Return of the Jedi. It still has some newer things, like maybe they're you know, building up again, because I mean, you look at things like Canto Bight, you know, and that might be a little hard to imagine, but it's those practical effects that really brought you back to that original trilogy stuff. And I think The Mandalorian too did a good job of really fitting in that era, you know. So I know we mentioned earlier that a lot of the canon has been expanded in comic books. And one of the cool things right now, and I don't know if we talked about it before, going on in the current Star Wars ongoing series is it takes place right after Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
So it's filling in that era, of Star Wars. I mean, like, and it's really like right after Empire Strikes Back, because I think issue 1, right in the beginning, Luke is dealing with his hand being cut off, and he's on the ship, and it's almost like, which, I mean, Ken, I think you've read it, right? Would you say it's like almost like a little bit of like a PTSD thing almost?
Yeah, dude, he's totally conflicted with what he knows. I mean, that's right after he had to come to terms that the Jedis were lying to him about what happened to his father.
Mm.
And he was a little bit conflicted about the fact of, like, why would they lie to me about Darth Vader killing my father when he is my father?
Mm-hmm.
And just the anger that you saw Luke have for the first time was almost like borderline like that. You see him show up in the first time Return of the Jedi, he's in black.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're slowly setting up the fact of, like, yeah, he's a Jedi, but he's kind of still in a dark place until he figures out what he's going to do to how to more or less deal with his father and what his father has become and what that means for him. And it's I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And plus, the Princess Leia Lando relationship really starts to develop inside of the story too, because man, Leia is like putting Lando to the hot coals about what happened on Cloud City.
Oh, really? I don't think I got that far. Interesting.
Lando's trying to build his redemption story that's going to obviously lead to him becoming the guy that is Jabba's guard. Do you know what I mean? Inside Return of the Jedi. So I love seeing how this is going to lead up to all those moments of, like, we just had a major loss at the end of Empire Strikes Back. We just got our butts kicked in every single way possible. How are we going to recover from that? And the Star Wars comic, that the first few issues have been really unbelievable storytelling setting that up, and I can't wait to see where it goes leading up to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, and he's I saw like early on, he's like trying to reach out to Obi-Wan, or
Yes.
and it's just not happening. Like, he's not able to as easily communicate in the Force, because I mean, we see in Return of the Jedi when Ben comes on Dagobah, and he's like, "Why didn't you tell me? Like, you said that Darth Vader betrayed and murdered my father," and they have that whole exchange there. So it's really interesting and really.
I didn't actually lie to you.
Yes.
he did technically kill him. Wow, thanks. On a technicality. Wow, thanks. Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes in that. Do you remember? Did you see this, Blade? I think it was the first or second issue when they were fighting the TIE fighters that were coming after the Millennium Falcon after Cloud City, and Luke just blew them all up with the Force.
That's right. Yes, I did.
And that was just like, they go, "Did you do that?" It's like that, like Lando and Leia were looking at each other like, "Well, I didn't do that." And next thing you know, Luke realized what he can actually do with the Force for the first time in an extreme measure. And I think wasn't there like a crack in some kind of window too that he did out of anger on the Millennium Falcon?
Something like that. But yeah, I mean, like, that's really what it is. This is all a character development of that adds to his temptation of the dark side.
Yes.
In that final scene in Return of the Jedi. So they're really building on that. And if for whatever reason you haven't seen Star Wars, to read the comics in between, I think would also make it, so much more impactful. Not saying that you'd necessarily do that, but it's really neat to see it. What?
Fills in so many gaps between those years between the movies, which was really, really, really fun to see.
Absolutely. I do have one more little thing I want to touch on, because, like, how can we not talk about Hoth at all before we wrap up? I was watching Empire Strikes Back in the background before we popped on here. First of all, how cool is Hoth?
Yes.
A new environment, something drastically different. And I just remember, when they, Vader figures out where they are and they go to invade. Am I the only one who just, like, I remember when I was young and the first time seeing it, and when they breach the base and like you hear over the intercom or whatever it is, Imperial troops have entered the base. Like,
right.
I mean, like, it's kind of like gives you like this feeling of terror. Like, is it just me?
Oh yeah, it's like a terrorist attack almost, but like I mean obviously like it's almost like reverse, but it's like there's a warning signal specifically for them. And I love Hoth is like half the reason why it's my favorite movie. It's because just like I love Hoth and the idea of it, and it's like kind of like where they went to go to try to hide from them. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's a place that makes sense. You know, it's like you can't go outside at night or else you might die. You have to ride pontons, and you can only be out for like 20 minutes, or you might die. Like it's a really smart place to go because you're like, why would humans, you know, try going there and bunkering down in there? It's like such a hard place to live. But yeah, that whole scene is like that's actually like nostalgia. That alarm, like I can hear it. Yeah, I can hear it. Like as soon as you said it, I heard it. That's a great place.
And of course, Hoth introduced the Walkers.
Yes, the AT-AT.
Yes.
It is AT-AT.
Or AT-AT, whichever.
I've always said AT-AT.
Yeah.
Well, I get AT-AT and AT-ST mixed up, so I never just dive into which one is which because I always have to look it up. Yes, okay. Yeah.
Like all-terrain armor transport for the acronym, I guess.
Okay, yes. Those are a cool vehicle. I think we talked about it on the last episode. And this particular scene has spawned so many fun I don't want to call them scenes, but video game bosses or missions or whatever they are. You know, I mean, to me, as far back as Rogue Squadron, I remember flying the snow speeder, and you actually have to use the harpoon and tow cable to try to trip them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And it was so much fun, like even being able to experience that, you know, in a video game. And there was there was another N64 era video game where you play as not one of the main characters. He's a different smuggler. But he's on Hoth, and I think that's right toward the beginning of the game. And when you're running and trying to escape, there is an AT-ST that broke into the base, and you're just a dude with a gun, and it is absolutely terrifying because you're trying to run away from this thing and you're trying to shoot it. Like, what was the name of it? I think it was Shadows of the Empire. Yes, you guys know what I'm talking about?
No,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I shouldn't have had a problem coming up with the name because it's literally right here on my desktop. Yeah, I just remember playing that as a kid, and then you walk into this room and there's an AT-ST, and it's not one of the ship missions. You're on foot with your gun, and you have to figure out how to kill it. And I think that's kind of gone on to some more modern video games as well. Like I think I remember Battlefront having the Hoth stuff. There were tow cables, weren't there?
Yeah. But it's a specific game mode, I believe.
Yeah. And another really cool part of the mythology that was introduced were the Imperial probe droids.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we saw them up until that point, right?
No. Yeah, those were the ones that found the Rebels base, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it self-destruct when Han shot it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what it is about them, but they're so cool.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
Weird, like they came up with some weird designs that like ended up being cool, but it's like why would you? I don't know. It's just like how do you come up with something like that? You know, like you look at that and you're like, I wouldn't think of that to be like a probe droid. Just how the design of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's so unique and different, I guess.
It's almost like drones before there were drones.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like how people use drones for spy missions type of things now.
Wow.
That's like that. It was almost like ahead of its time because I don't think were there drones known of you being used by the government military back in 1980. I'm sure there might have been some versions. Wasn't that like the
they
late
probably had them, but they weren't talking about them.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So they kind of, I don't know, just had so many. It's kind of like Star Trek. There's so many ideas that they were ahead of the time on that are kind of. It's funny from a long ago. It's like they were kind of ahead of time when it came to technology of stuff that was thought out for that movie. like even the use of models. I mean, when I saw those movies, I had no idea those were small models they were doing with just camera angles and just the space scenes. I'm going, I mean, you know, obviously that's the imagination side of things, but it was just crazy to think about how real everything looked from such a small scale, looking so grandeur and so large, just because of camera angles.
I think a lot of the props and technology just stemmed from piecing things together.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, look at is it the Gonk droid is a garbage can, right?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't am I right? Like, isn't the Gonk droid literally a garbage can that they modified?
Probably.
I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like a garbage can.
But I'm pretty sure that's literally what they did. I think Obi-Wan's lightsaber, the main piece of it with the little ridges, is, I want to say, an old grenade, like a piece of an old school grenade. Obi-Wan. Do any of you guys know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
No, I haven't heard that.
Let me see if I can Google it real quick.
Now I got an interesting question. Now, does George Lucas come up with all these ideas, or was it more Ralph McQuarrie just giving the visual concepts and Lucas, kind of like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby working together? You know, like Lucas is kind of like the Stan Lee and McQuarrie is kind of like the Jack Kirby with creating the Star Wars universe. Or did Lucas have all these little concept sketches? Here's what I envision. Go with it, Ralph.
That's a good question. I do not know the answer, but I think Lucas told him things when, you know, and then he came up with stuff, and then they figured out, well, how do we make this work? Okay, I found it. It was the main part of his lightsaber is a World War I number 3 MK1 British rifle grenade. So like that's like the biggest part of the hill. I'm putting it in the chat so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. See if that didn't work as well as I had hoped. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these things, you know, like, you know, filmmaking didn't have the budgets they have today, you know? So like this was the way of making this really cool stuff for relatively cheap, you know?
That's pretty cool.
Delivery for the speaker.
So there you go. So it's mostly this grenade, which I think is interesting. Another part of that Hoth scene that, of course, really stands out, and it's a huge part of pop culture, is the Tauntaun. And,
yes.
And Han just chopping him open and shoving Luke in there. Who thought of that?
The best part was there was a toy for that.
Yes.
Where you could actually stuff the action figure inside the belly of the Tauntaun and bring it back.
Really?
To like, yeah. Oh my gosh, that was one of the best toys. I remember as a kid, I'm going, I could really shove this action figure in this Tauntaun and play. My gosh. It was crazy, yeah.
I didn't know that. That was part of. That was one of the original ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I have that one in my collection. It's really cool.
That's epic.
That's fantastic. I wasn't even aware of that. I did see that. I want to say it was Think Geek, because, you know, they do a lot of weird things. They had a Tauntaun sleeping bag, and when you unzip it, the little pattern inside looked like its little intestines. You know how it looked like a little white sausage. You know, it looks like that. It's kind of disturbing if you think about it. But I remember just being really taken aback by that scene. You know, not in a bad way. When I first saw it, like, it was just such an interesting concept. Like, this thing is body heat. I'm gonna cut him open and put him inside there. And that scene also, I think, is the first time on screen a non-Jedi or a non-person who becomes a Jedi wields a lightsaber, even though it's for a second. Right?
Yep.
I can't think of another time before that, right? At least chronologically. I mean, not chronologically, within the release date.
Can the comics do that scene, like go deeper into that scene? Because how did Han stay warm too? I mean, he must have gotten in there too, you know?
Well, he had to set up the camp. I think what the problem is when you're freezing to death, you have to stay awake. And since Luke was unconscious, he would freeze to death. From what I understand, of freezing to death. I think it's a problem if you're asleep. You have to stay awake, otherwise you freeze to death. And I think that's where that comes into play, because he had to set up the camp to save them. So that was a way of just making sure Luke stayed alive while he did that. Oh, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but that's what I understand. So fun fact, if you're ever going to freeze to death, don't fall asleep.
Yeah, it's not nap time.
It is not nap time, no matter how comfortable it is. And I like it cold when I sleep. So, I mean, it's kind of a terrifying concept.
Yeah, but I don't know how you'd feel if it was, negative like 100 degrees outside.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. Like, oh, this is cozy. Let me take a nap right here.
Has Family Guy killed any of that part of that movie for you guys? Because it's like very hard to watch certain parts, especially of the original trilogy, without playing the Family Guy version in your head.
Oh yeah, that whole scene right there, when he's just sitting there going. On the outside, and it's like every time I hear that, that's all I think about.
Totally forgot about that. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of Empire Strikes Back specifically, because I do remember the something dark side, something complete. That's the most memorable part for me.
I still need to check on that.
Those, I'm not much of a Family Guy guy, whatever you want to say, but those were pretty good. Oh yeah, this is our May the 4th, 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back episode. Whether you're listening to this in the morning or the night, I hope you enjoyed some of the things on Disney Plus that are coming out today. We got the series finale of Clone Wars. That's the main thing I'm looking forward to. And the company who is doing Star Wars Celebration is also holding all kinds of panels across social media. So, look out for those. I think they're on New York Comic Con's social media pages, Emerald City Comic Con, like various things with all kinds of actors. And I think they're even live tweeting, some of the episodes, which is fun. But thank you all for joining us today and listening and making us part of your routines here. If you can, we'd appreciate you leaving a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, especially on iTunes, and that allows us for different kinds of opportunities to really help get the word out about Nightcap Chat. Ken, a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Blade, as always, for having these awesome podcasts we get to participate with, dude. So I'm Ken with Drawn to Comics. We are a comic shop in downtown Glendale, Arizona, and we're available on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter, and we also do an eBay store called Drawn to Comics as well. We'll be opening up soon, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys, and we miss you all.
And we'll have some of those links in the description of this podcast, so you can check that out. Lance?
Yeah. So you can come check me out on Twitch at Tales of Lance, and on Twitter and on Instagram at Tales of Lance also.
And we'll have those links as well. And Jay with Sidekicks?
We do our show every Friday, 8 p.m. Central on Facebook. And check us out. We sell a lot of collectibles, Funkos, all that good stuff.
Are you doing something special for this episode this week? No pressure if you're not ready to commit to anything right now.
Yeah, I may put together something. So if you go ahead and you mention if you tune in.
I meant like I thought you mentioned you were doing like a particular sale or something. I'm not pressuring any. Deals or anything.
Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and say, if you go ahead and tune in, mention that you heard us on the show, we'll go ahead and throw a little something towards you. A t-shirt, hat, something like that.
Fun stuff. Jay, I heard you on Nightcap Chat. We'll have that link also in the description. But thank you all for listening, and May the 4th be with you.
Thank you guys for listening.
Have a good week.